JJ Vance.
Oh,
Vancil.
I know.
oh yeah, exactly. Just a couple letters from being the vice president.
Oh, right, yeah, very close,
You look
very
great.
close.
You're gonna contribute awesome. You're gonna be amazing.
I hope I can
All right.
listen.
All right.
Hit it.
Lights, camera, action. We're back for your satisfaction from Action Business Furniture Studios is where it's happening. We got a special guest star appearance today from JJ Vancil with Generation Alive. And we also have your host, John Byron. Take it away, John.
Hey, everybody.
Yay!
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Thank you to Action Business Furniture for hosting us, and thank you to everybody that's here in the room. We like to kick things off by going around the room and introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, what industry you're in, name of your company. Keep it kind of brief so that we have time for the conversation. And then the one big thing we really like to highlight is any event that you're aware of, that you're hosting yourself. Just let us know what's going on so that people that are watching can be more aware. Matt and I were just talking about there's so much out there, so many resources, so many opportunities, and it's easy to have one go by and be like, oh, if I had known, I would have gone. So JJ, you're a guest presenter.
Yeah.
But give us a quick teaser of who you are and what events you have coming up.
Oh gosh, lots of events. JJ Vancil, the executive director of a local youth development nonprofit called Generation Alive. Our heart is to activate young people to live and lead with compassion. So we're really committed to raising up the next generation of servant leaders, next generation of business leaders, and we do all sorts of school-based programs that are investing in young people. So in terms of upcoming events, we're a nonprofit, so we exist because of the generosity of the community. We have a huge golf tournament that's a big part of our funding strategy.
Is that coming up?
Yeah, June 23rd.
Oh, right around the corner.
Yeah, right around the corner. We're about 2 months out. We host a phenomenal golf tournament and then a phenomenal auction in the fall as well, which is October 2nd.
Silent auction or regular?
Live,
Noisy
silent,
auction?
fun. John's
It's
been a
a
part of
blast. It is
it.
a blast.
We host, I
Yes.
would say, the best events in town when it comes to nonprofit work. So.
Are you looking for people to donate for that auction?
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, and there's sponsor opportunity. There's plenty of anybody and everybody, whether it's a small, big. We have different places that anybody can get involved. Yeah, and on the auction side, small businesses are perfect to if there's items or experiences or something. So
Yeah,
Sounds exciting.
Awesome.
yeah, it's really fun.
Thank you. Welcome. We'll get into it a little bit more in a minute.
Yeah, please.
All right, hello, Rob Ruder, founder of IDIC Designs, Infinite Diversity and Infinite Combinations. I'm a technology coach and I help small businesses right-size their technology for profitability and growth.
Nailed it. Awesome.
I'm Stephanie Wheeler. I'm a clinical social worker in private practice. My practice is Resilience, Hope, and Healing Therapeutic Services, and I work with primarily trauma, complex trauma, as well as various other issues, working both with adults and young adults.
I'm Jennifer Hawkins. I am the CEO and founder of Launched Performance. I really focus and my passion is really with young adults, so very similar. Yeah. We really have alignment in a lot of what you were just saying. So post-graduation or grad school, really just focusing on helping them find clarity and alignment in their career, next steps, how to really show up for that. And land that dream role in that organization that they're really trying to do that with, and then scaling from there through new leader to mid-level leaders. So really that sweet spot being, post-grad all the way through that mid-level leader and really helping them with that business acumen, how to coach and develop, how to be leaders at work, and then of course just even the entry into a chosen field and that sort of thing. So young adults, love them. Thanks.
Also, Jennifer is our guest presenter next week, so come check that out. We'll have more details coming up soon.
Excited. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Matthew Guzman. I'm a financial professional with New York Life. I specialize in small business assistance and as well as people that are aging into their golden years, planning and making it sure that in case there's any genetic makeup that might put a bump in the road in case of medical costs, that we're planning ahead of that. And so I also have another business that is a multimedia production company called 1140 Studios. We help small businesses at an affordable rate, making sure they're actually branding and consistently posting on social media to make sure they're getting in front of the right clients.
Hello, I'm Cherie Sauer. I own Success Without Sacrifice. We help with burnout recovery, burnout prevention, and also helping keep business owners in peak performance. We also help with hiring because hiring is a big pain point and headache for a lot of people, so we do that for small businesses. We have an event coming up. Our Spokane speaker retreat is coming up June 18th through the 20th, so if you just want to grow as a confident communicator, speaker, we have a track for that, and then we also have another track if you actually want to become a professional speaker. We're going to be doing speaker reels and speaker website and all kinds of good stuff on that. So
Fabulous.
yeah.
Terrific. Glad you're here.
Yeah.
Glad everybody's here. I'm Dave Ribble from Standout Mastery and Standout Marketing Strategies. And I have something coming up on the 26th of April. Circle that, please, right now.
It's a Saturday, right?
It's a Saturday. And we're going to do this. We're going to do it's called a Standout Mastery Summit. And what it's about is from 10 to 4, we're going to talk about communication, connection, and collaboration skills like you have never talked about before. And we're going to have a whole lot of fun. I'm even going to feed you. So email me at dave@daveribble.com and I'll get this information to you. But please come. Going to have sponsors, going to have some surprises, and it's going to be a day of education that you will take away some great things you can do.
Awesome.
Handing it off.
Thank you. It sounds fantastic.
Well, thank you.
I feel like you're building a lot of momentum for it.
There's another card.
Yeah, well, I shared the other one, so now I have 0, so
Yes,
now
you
I'm
do.
back to 1.
Thank you so
That's
much.
math that we like.
I like it.
My name is Lisa Miller. I'm an arbitrator and a private judge.
You see.
And if you are signing any sort of commercial contracts ever, which you all do, like your phone, buying anything at Best Buy, all of it has an arbitration agreement in it. And so if you're ever dragged into arbitration, you know an arbitrator. I am your friendly neighborhood arbitrator. And I do the legal minutes, so someone needs to time me. The minute is about US v. Google. There was just a recent decision that Google ads are a monopoly. And right, so you heard about this, I'm sure, in New York Life, I'm sure that this is a topic of conversation. So what Google was doing was they were providing this platform. They were, in other words, handling all the publishing of all the, everybody's, if they had a commercial publication, if they were a podcast or anything like that, they provide the platform for that. And then they also sell the ads. So they were tying that together. Tying is constitutionally not approved. It's considered monopolistic, where you require someone to participate in an ecosystem that they are otherwise also required to participate in. So you have to go to them to get onto their platform so people can find you, and then you have to go to them regarding placement of your ads. Normally that would all be handled privately. So it was tied together illegally. Tying is not approved. It was considered to be a monopoly. The judge ruled on half of the case that indeed Google had engaged in monopolistic behavior. They had exerted this monopolistic power to keep everybody else out of that sector. So there's no competition. When there's no competition, what do you get? High prices, low quality. And that's exactly what the court found. But the court actually, I know, it's a big case. The court found that the government did not prove the other half of the case. So it looks like they're not going to be able to, the government won't be able to force a breakup, which is sort of where they were starting from. They were, right, they're coming for big tech, right? Elizabeth Warren is saying, big tech is abusive and the surveillance economy is bad for us and so forth. So there's this, sort of overall the government's coming for that sector. And so this was sort of a messy half of a win, which is probably not going to ultimately result in a breakup. But there might be some divestment of just the ad aspect of it. And so this is good for, if you want to pass these around, it's just the legal minute handout. It's good for smaller businesses for this to break up because ad prices will go down. Smaller businesses are always looking to drive that better bargain. And in the past, because it was a monopoly, there was no bargain to be had. So that's the good news. The bad news is it's gonna take years because they're gonna appeal.
Yeah, all right.
But just keep an eye out.
But it is a win for small business.
It is a win for small businesses.
What was the penalty that the judge ruled for?
No penalty yet, that's coming.
I'm sure it's gonna be a slap on the wrist compared to what they're actually making, but.
Yeah.
Well, the numbers that they're actually making are public, so the judge will have something to work with, but they only won half the case, so. And also, some constitutions, if anyone needs it or wants a
Pocket Constitution.
pocket
Isn't that great?
constitution.
But
No,
this is
sure.
great too. We really
I'll
appreciate you
pull
doing
it
this.
out the next time I get pulled over.
And then-
Does that happen often?
No.
Was that a minute? Was that 60
It was a little bit more.
Oh,
Hour and a half.
Next time.
90 minutes.
We'll
I
polish
just
it
don't
down.
wanna eat into someone else.
All right, and I'm Jonathan Byron. I'm the host, and I do sell houses. I help people buy and sell houses. Mike, you want to tell the people what you do? Lisa's your advocate. She's like, oh, look at him. He's got his clipboard ready. He's got
This is always
music.
a treat.
High energy.
Throughout the war-torn streets of Europe during World War II, after American forces took over a city or village, they passed out Hershey's bars. Hershey's. The Hershey's wrappers lined the streets as a symbol of American liberation. Hershey's, the taste of freedom.
Yeah, please. Do it again. What's the next sponsor?
Oh, man.
Best ever.
Nice music.
And thanks to Mike, he brought some chocolate for everybody. So if you're here in the room, you get a chocolate bar today, as at a Constitution and all kinds of great things. So, yeah, we're an eclectic group. We have a great conversation, and anybody at home, you're welcome to come join us every Friday, 3 p.m. But really, JJ, I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Yeah.
JJ and I have gotten to sit and have conversations together, and always interesting.
Yeah.
And B, what I really like about you is like you don't hold back. Like you just go there.
Yeah, let's
Like-
go
like, there's no take the gloves off and we just go there. So
Yeah.
what you are doing with Generation Alive and helping kids, I know you kind of teased it out a little bit, but my wife and I have been so impressed, and I've been engaged from the minute I heard about
Yeah.
it. But it's so necessary, it's so needed, and I don't want to steal any of your thunder, so I'm not going to go too far. But you're doing it. You're in the schools. You're
Yeah.
helping these kids and seeing results, and it's still this overwhelming, daunting problem. So I don't want to take away from whatever direction you were going to go, but tell us what's going on with the kids these days.
Well, yeah, I mean, just a little bit. Well, the things that I care about. I don't know. Does anybody here have kids? Yeah, you have kids
12 grandchildren.
and 12 grandkids.
Those
You're
count,
too
that
young to be a
Absolutely.
grandfather.
Thank you.
I think one of the challenges that I care most about is to advocate for the hearts and passions of young people, because I think it's easy to get around the table with other adults and you can kind of bemoan the younger generations. And I think the reality is that every generation has always been looked at as a problem, because there's different norms, there's different environmental experiences that change the very soil in which a young person might grow up, different world events, pandemics. I mean, you think about what kids have experienced. We all experience them, but we experience them differently. And young people have these really malleable brains that are they're being shaped by all these outside and inside influences, and they just look different. And so because they're different, it's easy for us to just go, man, all I see is young people being addicted to their phones. All I see is entitlement. All I see is, I actually was gonna throw it out there for us to riff about
Is
just
that
our own.
entitlement thing true though, or is that just a meme in popular culture? Because do you experience that on a real level?
I would say we experience that at all levels of every age, and
Yeah.
Yep.
I think there are kids that have a sense of entitlement.
But haven't there always been those?
Exactly. That's a little bit of what I'm getting at, is that young people today are no different in the fact that there are challenges that they're facing, but there's also behind the scenes really tremendous gifts that young people have and capacities, and they're growing up in a generation where they're way more tech savvy, and they might just be prepared and ready to take on the future of the way that our world is going. So just a little, side note, John and Melissa, John's wife, and their family have all been involved. So their kids have gone through the program. They've participated in their faith community through the program. We work in close to 40 schools a year running a leadership development program that actually takes kids through a project where we partner with the schools to form about 20 to 25 students participate in what's called an action team. Action Furniture. Was this Action Furniture? Yeah. Action Business Furniture. We're doing action teams. 20 to 25 students that work together for an entire 3 to 4 months. And from start to finish, they lead a school-wide assembly. They pick it, the focus of the assembly is around a specific need in the community. The one that we do the most is around food insecurity. I don't know if you know this, but there's 70,000 people in Spokane County that are food insecure. Food insecure means you're not homeless, but it means you don't know where your next meal is coming from. Of that 70,000, only 2,500-ish, give or take, are homeless. So these are people that we're walking by all the time. We're driving by. They have a place to live. They're just barely hanging on. So they rely on the network of food banks in order to survive, to even make it. Gratefully, I was raised in a home. We were never wealthy, but I never doubted that when I woke up in the morning that I would have a hearty breakfast or food in a lunchbox on my way to school. But so many families are just barely teetering on the edge. So we make this need known to kids, and their hearts break for that. And then they lead a school-wide assembly advocating for that. So we're teaching kids to speak, to get up in front. It varies based upon age group. John's kids went through when they were in elementary school, so it's a little bit more Generation Alive, kind of runs the assembly, and then kids kind of participate. But then we're high school kids, it's 100% them to come up with the content and to speak and to share and to put videos together and all that. And then they lead an assembly. They then spearhead a fundraising campaign to meet that need. So we actually have a meal that we've created in partnership with Second Harvest. It is not a meal I'll give you the third step, I should say. And that is, we run this school-wide food packing experience. So we take over the whole day for their school, and these action team students lead their peers in packing food. And this isn't just packing prepackaged food into bags, it's actually the raw material. So right now we do a cinnamon apple oatmeal, and so we've got tubs of oatmeal and some apples and some sugar and some cinnamon, and they're packing it, weighing it, sealing it, labeling it, boxing it, and then it goes all the way back to Second Harvest, and then Second Harvest distributes it into the local community. And so we just see young people captured by this idea that we can make a difference. This last year, 2024, kids, this is kids. This isn't JJ or my team. I've got 6 staff raising money for kids. No, it's kids raising money. This last year, kids in Spokane County raised $71,000. This is through coin drives. This is through asking mom and dad. This is digging through the couch cushions to find whatever money they can find, going door to door, asking neighbors. We've got kids that have done little lemonade stands, and they sell popcorn at different sporting events, or they facilitate some sort of fun competition at their school to raise money. They're learning that kind of sales and marketing piece. But it's all for a good cause. And then with that 71,000, kids packed 284,000 meals last year, which is really significant. So we kind of are on the front lines of of seeing the potential of young people. And then we get to communicate to the rest of the world, like your perception of young people is actually maybe wrong. And there is all sorts of reasons to be hopeful about the hearts of young people. So that's context of the work that we do. And I think in terms of why a conversation here would matter when it comes to small businesses is one day the kids that we are working with at local schools will be at this roundtable, will be running a business. And it would be unbelievably valuable for us as adults to really think strategically about what are we doing or what can we do in order to prepare the next generation for that, rather than just going, kids, dude, we're screwed. You know, that's what I hear a lot. Like, I look in the next generation, I feel nothing but fear and trepidation, you know.
They said that about us.
Exactly. They did and they do probably, you know, and so that's a little bit of a lead into the question is, you know, for us, what can we do as a larger business community or larger community to invest in the potential of young people today? Yeah.
So I think for me, like the statistics out there of students landing in the workforce and then being let go because they didn't have business acumen and that sort of thing, has been disheartening, because I believe as leaders, we can do a much better job of setting up better onboarding, mentoring, relationships, things like that. So prior to what I'm doing today, I was the regional director for the blood bank. And so we had a lot of, you know, that 18 to 24 year range, who a lot of them had food insecurity as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that was really tough, but I will tell you that they absolutely wanted to serve. They absolutely wanted to do good things, but they didn't necessarily have those skill sets to understand that your mom doesn't call in sick for you today, right? And all those different things. Hey, put your phone away when you're doing phlebotomy, right? Like all these things are really critical, right? As a reminder, this is why we talk about these things. I think that organizations are so quick to dismiss, and we've really walked away from development. And if we as leaders, I think, don't wait for our company to put something formal in play. Why do we need to do that, right? Why can't we just reach out and start putting together our own mentorship, take someone under our wings, talk to them about that? The other thing too, with what you spoke about with technology, and actually there's some of the most informed people out there. They are so incredibly
they're savvy.
knowledgeable. Yes, and very bright. And so I used to find talking to them very refreshing. And I used to like to, hey, talk to me about what you think. How would this process be better? What could we do different, right? They would always have these phenomenal ideas, but they didn't necessarily have the confidence or the wherewithal to come up to a leader and just say, hey, by the way, this is like really inefficient and I think we could do this better. They didn't know how to say those things in a way that wouldn't be insulting, right? And where they were heard, and it was valued. And I think that we need to do such a better job. And as we hear from people like you and the amazing work that you're doing with younger people, right? Just sharing that out a little bit more, you know, find someone that we can mentor, excuse me, because as Gen X, I can tell you, they said a lot of horrible things about us, right? And I remember my father speaking about how, you know, everyone said horrible things about them and how they dressed and their hips moving and their hair, and I don't remember all the stuff, but all the stuff, right? And it's like you said, no one is unscathed. We all go through this, and yet we turn around and do it. And I don't really get that, but we need to do better.
I think every
And
generation though claims their own.
Sure.
And my generation had the best music.
Yeah.
And that was,
Sure.
give me your.
It was the 20s.
But
But we had the best music. But I really do think though that every generation wants their own identity.
100%.
Sure.
They don't want to be like mom and dad.
And it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Then there'd be no new ideas.
But
If
we
all
can
they
still
did was-
value them, right? And like not be so,
They're darned if they do and they're darned if they don't.
right?
Because if they say, this could be better,
they are shunned. I mean, right, no one in a position of power is gonna be like, oh, how welcome that message is. And then if they don't say anything, it's like, they're disconnected,
Right.
they're all about themselves, they're just chatting with their friends on DMs.
But I do think there's a way to show up for it, right? And I feel like, because if we say
Threading
that,
a needle though, and to expect young people to know how to do that, where are they supposed to learn these skills?
us.
Right, and if we're not, if all we're doing is criticizing them,
Right.
every move
That's
they
the
make,
problem.
So what have the kids taught you?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's a great question.
Great question.
Well, as a 14, my son is 14, so I can use some just real life experience of what my son has done.
No names though.
Oh, that's right. We have a rule.
Yeah.
What happens in
I
action
think
in business
there-
furniture stays at action.
Yeah, okay, sounds great. So my son, he is really incredibly inquisitive, and I think probably more so than ever. And I think there was a one critique that I have seen among young people is a deep distrust for systems and traditions and authority. Okay, let's talk about just the education system. I have a freshman in high school. His name is Son. He really struggles with like, Dad, what am I doing learning geometry? How is this going to benefit me down the road? How is this actually helping? We could actually be talking about business development, how to do your taxes. Financial literacy things. There is a brokenness within the system, and I think potentially generationally, there's been a varying degree of like, no, the authority said it, so that makes it good. Young people today, to your question, are going, I don't know if I trust that. And why are we accepting everything
But is that a good thing?
It is a good thing, and I would say
I mean, it's an annoying thing.
No, but
it's
that's
a
the
good
way I
thing.
was. I mean,
yeah,
every generation does that,
yeah.
Well, they're supposed to.
right?
I would say one thing that is, that I would say that had the backside of that is that, and where I think we can lean in is ask them, not just to accept their criticism and then, because what it's led to is I'm just going to give up completely on school. Now mom and dad have put there's been some discipline related to
Some
that.
consequences.
But to go, okay, son, then let's actually work together to solve a problem. They're like, what would you suggest? How do we navigate the reality that you right now are going to school and you're frustrated with, is this meaningful? But that system isn't going to change overnight. So how do you going to drop out of school? No, we're not going to drop out of school.
You could homeschool.
Yeah, we could. But then that puts pressure on mom and dad. But actually put it back on them and go, what do you think? Rather than me trying to become the rescuer or the disciplinarian, to go, I trust your instincts. I actually agree with a lot of your instincts, but how do we let's solve this problem together? So that's and that's incredibly empowering. And one of the things that we can communicate to young people is like, give away responsibility and thought responsibility. Don't just allow for young people to just completely tear down the system without providing a solution to them.
Right.
And
Can I add one more thing?
yeah, please.
Maybe I'm the only one here that would agree with this, but if I had a tough time in school from a particular subject, and I didn't want to do the work because I didn't understand it, it was real easy for me to ask the question of, well, why do we need this anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
And it wasn't necessarily because that was a logical question I was asking. I'm just looking for an excuse because I'm not doing well in that subject. And I think as a parent, you got to figure out, which is it? Is it because you haven't applied yourself enough, or is it really something totally foreign to you and you're going to fight this thing all the way?
Right.
Well, and I think something that's unique, especially now, we're talking about technology and the era that we live in, the education that they get from Instagram and Facebook and all these different sources, although sketchy whether it's all accurate or not, but the ability to innovate, to create new, to maybe not go to school anymore. But like, my oldest is same age as yours,
Yeah.
and we're having very similar
Okay.
conversations. And I kind of put it to him. I'm like, reinvent the whole thing. Use ChatGPT. Come up with a new way, because it's a challenge. And so, to your point, what I've discovered for me is if it checks the right boxes for me, I don't care how hard it is to learn. I am gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
But if there's no application, there's nothing like, why do I need to memorize? My youngest was, doing the memorization thing, and she wasn't memorizing, so she was just trying to do it as quick as she could and couldn't get it done in a minute or whatever it was. And it's like, why do we have to memorize this? We have a calculator on our phones. We have, I can ask Google or Siri, and it's instant answers. So like, that's, yeah, of course you're gonna struggle to learn something if you see no value in it. There's no it scratches that itch. But when it's something that you're curious about, man, it's like I'll go. And I even was thinking about eating, and there was definitely a season of my life where I would sometimes go days without eating because I was just so engaged in whatever it was that I was doing that I didn't feel hungry. I was totally oblivious to externally. That's probably not healthy necessarily, but now it's
This is really an intervention.
yeah, right. But the contrast to that is when I got into real estate, although I was engaged and enjoying it, there was a lot of time where I'm just driving and you see McDonald's and
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
oh, I'm hungry. Oh, burger. It's I did not eat very healthy for a season because it's you just always want to eat. And so, yeah, I think that in that, it's stoking the curiosity. And we were talking about values. A question that comes to my mind is, what do we define as the non-negotiable values? How do we come to that? And how do we say, yeah, you don't have to go to school because that's not one of our core values, or maybe it is, right? But it is important that you educate yourself, that you are equipped for the world that you're going to occupy.
Yeah.
That's getting at something that, falls into my area, because I specifically in 2014, I kind of fell into teaching at Gonzaga for a purpose. And that was, I can agree, in fact, every class I go in front of is the challenge, is why are they there? They're very creative. They have dreams that they want to achieve. And I would agree that our education system has somewhat placed a premium on simply, we have an agenda for you and we're going to move you through that agenda. And yet they find me extremely frustrating because I tend to have an anti-agenda. Yes, I have a subject I need to get you through, but how you figure out what you need out of it, that's not for me to decide. I'm going to take a topic and then I'm going to throw you in the deep end, so to speak, and figure it out. But there are some column values, there are all things that I think we could be focusing on, and that is not what they need to learn, but how to learn.
100%.
What is the mechanism that you use? Because I know, for instance, one of the things I've been just gorging myself on a lot of content about business and so on. And one of the things that picked up, and I said, yes, I've always believed this. The reason to memorize is repetition, because you can't innovate until you know what has already come. Otherwise, you're just inventing something that somebody else already thought of. But it's when you go through something and you do it and you do it and you do it, and then you take a step back and go, oh, I wonder if anyone's ever seen this before. And then you start talking about it and people go, didn't know that could happen.
Right.
And that's what I'm always doing, is I'm saying, look, I will pass along what we know now and expect someone to master the mechanics of it to a point in which they can become free to innovate with it. So to say, you know, I think artists are the ones that say, learn, you know, art so well that, how's that phrase go? Follow the rules so well that you can learn to break the rules.
That was a Pablo Picasso quote, you know, he said, you have to know the rules before you can break them.
Right.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what I hear is, and what I experience with my kids who are 12 and 10 is you have to learn how to motivate them because they're not motivated the same way you are. And just like in business, when you have leaders and they think, well, my employees should be motivated the same way that I am. And so you try and push that and it doesn't work. And I know for my oldest, he has some learning disabilities, and typical school was he would come home and I'm stupid and I'm dumb and I can't do this. And it was like, no, like your brain just functions differently. And he's very driven and motivated by money. And so we had to learn, like he hated writing, but he was really motivated by helping homeless people and animals. And so when we started homeschooling, we were like, okay, well, let's take that motivation. You want to raise money for endangered species, so you have to write a poster board and then you have to do a presentation saying, and so he was motivated by that. Same thing, like he wanted a cat, and I was like, okay, and he hates writing, he hates grammar, he hates punctuation. I was like, okay, then you need to do the research, figure out how much it's going to cost, how to take care of this cat, and then you have to write a one-page paper and tell us why you should get that cat. And he wrote it with his best handwriting, and he was like, Mom, will you like edit it and like make sure my grammar and punctuation is good? But if I were to tell him you need to do this assignment and then I'm going to check it, that's a totally different ball game. And so I've learned that, and I don't know if this is just the younger generation, but I think the same is true for me too. Like, I'm not going to do something unless I'm motivated to do it, whether it's geometry or math. And my youngest, we're going through this right now of like trying to learn multiplication facts. And the kid can memorize anything. Like, he can listen to podcasts and he can repeat things. If he wants to memorize it, he will. He has no motivation to memorize his math facts because it doesn't apply to him right now. And so he does it. He goes through the motions. But I'm like, I know if you just took the time to like sit and memorize this, I know you can do it right away, but he doesn't have the motivation. And so I feel like with younger kids, it like we look at them and we say, oh, they're lazy, they're unmotivated. And it's like, if you just learn how to motivate them, find something and communicate in a way that motivates them, it's a different story. Whether they're working in a workplace or they're trying to do school, it's like they have to see the how it's going to benefit them, I think.
Value.
Yeah.
Which is really what's hard about that, and why I think that it's hard for adults to get that, is that requires customizing the journey for every person versus like viewing everybody through a very cookie cutter lens, which I think is what the rejection of our education system from young people is like, stop trying to fit me into a box.
Right.
I'm unique, creative, innovative. I have different skills. For me, I was genuinely motivated by success and getting the positive affirmation because I was smart, bright, could communicate well, I got good grades. I don't remember hardly anything from high school. I just know I got straight A's because I liked that accomplishment. I was motivated by that. But young people today are going, I need a cause worth fighting for. You know, they're not motivated. That's not entirely true. I mean, I'd say there's a lot of kids that are still like me that like, I'll memorize that because that means I get an A on the paper and I get a positive affirmation and my parents going, good job. You know, that's what I was looking for. Whereas young people today, you know, it's interesting. I came out of my initial vocation was I was a youth pastor. And so I was raised in a church context, and youth group was a thing back, you know, it still is, but it was a much bigger deal when I was younger, you know, hundreds of kids involved in some capacity. But youth group or youth engagement was all built upon entertainment, meaning I'm going to create a program so fun and exciting that kids would volunteer their time on a Tuesday night to come to this event. So games, food, the speaker, music, all that stuff. Well, here's the core aha for us at Generation Live is that kids don't need entertainment. You cannot compete with YouTube, Xbox,
Cat movies.
cat memes and movies. You cannot compete with that. So if you're trying to motivate through entertainment, it's just going to fall on deaf ears. But if you can create a cause that allows them to be a part of something bigger than themselves that makes a tangible difference, you can tap into a little bit of that motivation. But on the business side, gosh, it would be so easy if it was just A plus B equals C. Everybody's the same. So if I just implement this formula over and over and over again, it's going to result in the same results. Well, that's not how human nature works. I'm married. I can tell you, my wife is like a foreign, she's foreign to me. The things that motivate her, I've been married for 20 years and I'm like, wait, that's how you want me to communicate? And so we're all so uniquely different, and there's a beauty in that, but it will require a customized plan for each individual.
Especially with all the new mental research that's coming out, people being on the spectrum, and there's variations of where you are, and then how you think and how you approach the day, big tasks versus small tasks. It's how do you navigate that emotionally? And then you have the schooling system as a copy and paste. We're just going to keep it very simple one.
And without disregarding the value of there is value in knowing the basics, right? Knowing the rules. There's this beautiful story of this young gal who was really struggling in school. And so her mom and dad were, kind of began to view her through the lens of you're a problem. There is something about you that needs to be fixed. So brought her to a counselor and tried to fix her. And after several sessions with this young gal, the counselor said, I want your mom to come into our next session. Her mom shows up and the counselor's like, hey, why don't you step outside with me? And goes out in the hallway and she's like, okay, what are you going to tell me? And he goes, why don't you just peek into the room? I don't know if you've heard this story. Yes. Everybody's like, and looks, and the girl is twirling in the middle of the room. And he goes, your daughter's not a problem. She's a dancer.
Yeah.
And it gives me chills even thinking about, we just have so tried to fit everybody into this really, neat, comfortable, something that we can understand and then formalize, but no one's like that, and so.
And that's why, though, I think businesses have an outsized opportunity to be engaged in that discovery process, because that personalization, that finding out what motivates individuals is the business problem. Yeah. I mean, if business were a school, we would just say, okay, how big of a group can you support, and you just feed them whatever it is you give them. But business is not that easy, because you have to go out and find what motivates the people you want to serve to choose actions that you can help them actually solve the problem that they want to solve. And that's the same thing we're doing with children. They're our future. And so we need to find what motivates them so that we leave our time on this planet, the planet is in a better state than it is. And this idea that we can just keep running the industrial complex education system is starting to fly apart. I mean, more and more things I listen to, they say,
higher ed is in trouble.
We still have this industrial complex method of educating, and we have a communications platform. We have a global network that is just teeming, waiting for brains to connect and become, better than they are today.
Yeah, but what's amazing is, Google, and back in the day, Blockbuster was a thing. We all remember the corner, and I have always wanted to create a sign in my office that just says "Don't be Blockbuster," because it was so committed to its brick and mortar store that it couldn't see the innovation that was happening. Look at Netflix, our Instagram page, our Facebook page has all been curated to us, right? And so I do think the value would be, what would it look like for us to have a business that had a for you component for every employee? And because the algorithm, positively or negatively, I will talk to the end of the earth about the negative, algorithms that are actually siloing everybody into their own little groups and dividing everybody. That is proven over and over again. It's not been a net positive in terms of our human relationships. But with the advent of AI, it would not be difficult for us, when we take in a new employee, to create a curated plan. Because you think about, gosh, the amount of work that would take for me to learn all of these employees and what is the unique thing about them. You could create a simple template. You could train AI to spit out the information based upon the inputs that you receive from the young person or the new employee or whomever, and AI can spit out quickly, something that would take us months to do, a curated plan that helps move this young person in a way that fits their uniqueness. So that's something I have not thought about until we started talking.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm involved in a group, and we just had that conversation this week. We had a presentation of somebody who is building their digital agent, and
100%.
and Azura is speaking to him, and he's got rules and guidelines and things, and they have a relationship where they're going back and forth. And that is just the beginning of what's possible out there. And interesting, you brought up Blockbuster, because another thing this week I was listening to was the CEO of, the first CEO of Netflix, co-founder of Netflix, and he tells the story how close Blockbuster came to actually winning that war.
Yeah, of course.
And
they pulled back.
And right at the moment that they had a chance to take out Netflix and incorporate it all into theirs, they lost focus. They took out that CEO who was
100%.
running down. He was going to win, and they pulled him out and put somebody in who was just a convenience store clerk.
Wow.
And he changed everything, and Netflix skated on past.
And no one remembers his name.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's because they looked at all of the investment they'd made in real estate and the sunk cost, and they're like, well, billions upon billions of dollars, we can't just forsake all these corner stores.
Yep.
So
let's put candy on the shelf.
Yeah, let's put candy yes, and I think they also tried to be like, there were no more late fees, right? But the technology had.
I think towards the end, you didn't even have to rewind anymore.
I remember that, man. You had to stick it back in your VCR
And run it back,
Where you got charged for not rewinding.
Yeah.
But I do think, what was your name again? Jennifer. I think you brought up something really important. There really are soft skills that young people aren't learning.
I'd like to call those power skills.
Power skills. So one thing that I've recently done with my own kids, and I will say not perfectly, but my son has friends over. When I was a kid, I would go over to my friend's house, and the first thing I would do is say hi to the parents.
Right.
and shake their hand and just greet them. And now these kids just run into my house and they go right downstairs and then they leave when their mom texts them. There's no goodbye. And I just finally was like, hold up, hey, Tyler, thanks for coming over, but here's the requirement when you come to my house is you come into the kitchen or wherever we are and you say hi.
Do you get any pushback on that? Or
No, they
once you
appreciated
tell
that
them?
once you tell them.
They just need to know.
But because they're so used to the communication
Yeah.
via the phone, that those simple, like, look people in the eye, shake hands, there is high anxiety about that.
Yeah.
And that is real. They
Or
don't.
speaking
my
on the
son
phone
also.
is terrorizing to
Yeah,
them.
speaking on the phone. Yeah, the
It's
phone
crazy.
is the least used app on our
Right.
phone.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there is an ability to be like, hey, there's basic principles here of human interaction, human relationship. If you want to be successful, if you want to make money, if you want to win people's hearts, I mean, I've told my son over and over again, you win people over with a handshake and an eye contact,
Yeah.
And so one time he shook my hand or shook somebody's hand and I noticed that it was just this floppy hand. I was like, hold up, okay, I'm gonna use this as a learning moment. Okay, Owen, you grab that hand and you shake it with some substance and you look him in the eye and you go, hi, John, it's good to meet you. Those
That's
type.
a lot of multitasking for a young.
Yeah.
They
And
with that.
he does it. Oh my goodness, he's grown so much in that area. But they just, there's
And
anxiety.
if the kid's parents, his friends, if they're not working on that skill,
Right,
no one else is.
right.
It's
So-
so true, and it really is up to us to do that. I was my husband and I, same thing, like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, we're gonna practice this. But we were literally in our living room, like, we're practicing, and doing those things. Because it is intentional and we do have to, right? And I think, cause my husband and I were in corporate, where you're doing that all day long, right?
Yeah.
You're meeting and greeting and doing all that, at least pre-COVID. And so it was like, if you don't have that, you won't have success. And everything really is relationship built. Like, how do we all sell? How do we all, right, influence, win each other over and do all of that? It really is by relationships. However, it's harder and harder for us to be good at it now. And I would say even post-COVID, even those of us who may have been higher level in that have reverted a bit. And now we're going back to work or we're doing these different things. And it's like, oh yeah, saying hello in the hallway and just, you know what I mean? And walking to the department maybe instead of just like slacking them or Teams them, right? Or whatever, like actually getting up. All of that is just getting back to that, but that is the thing that makes you remembered, right? Because it really is about how do we make you feel.
Yeah.
Before you jump in, Dave, Ben Volk Insurance. Ben Volk, shout out, is tapping in from Liberty Lake. He says the question now is who will make Netflix obsolete? And I wanted.
I think we know the answer.
Well, and I think what
is the answer?
ChatGPT, yeah. But I do want to highlight, like, that is always the question, right?
Yeah.
Like, nothing lasts forever.
Well,
and
who's
it's,
gonna make realtors obsolete?
Well,
Who's gonna sell homes?
that's a great question that I would love to
But
answer,
again,
but
it's relationship, really.
yeah,
replace that.
I think it's the innovativeness and it's the young generation, like there is, I don't know the CEO of Netflix, but I'll pick on Zuckerberg and Bezos and all that. Like the young version of them is in our households right now.
Yes.
Right.
And it's that is going to be birthed out of that. And to your point at the very beginning of this, and kind of how we probably can wrap this up, is what are we instilling in tomorrow's Jeff Bezos? What is, when they create Netflix's replacement, when they create Zillow's replacement, when they come up with the next social media, the next whatever it is, and hopefully some of us will innovate some cool things, but when they do, how will they carry it? How will they, are they gonna do it for good? Or is it gonna be for profit? Just sheer, is it gonna, so yeah, I think that like having these conversations amongst ourselves, and I think that as entrepreneurs, we are the kids that never grew up, right? We're still like trying to figure out
Legos.
Yeah, like it's like we're the ones that are like, I'm not gonna do the schoolwork just because you told me to. I'm not gonna pay my taxes just because you told me to. Hopefully we're paying our taxes. The motivation is the question.
Shoot, that's a timely week for that
Yes,
conversation.
yes, yeah. So, yeah, no, lots of innovation potentially. Closing thoughts? We're getting towards the end. We have a few more minutes and I'm opening, I know Dave, you were starting to.
No, I just, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that, if you try, I think a lot of it comes down to us as adults assuming assuming the best
Yeah.
in the next generation, and believing in their potential and constantly speaking to that reality. There's all sorts of reasons to be hopeful. The news capitalizes on all sorts of reasons to not be hopeful, and the only reason they do that is because they give you money.
Well, clicks.
And clicks. But the value foundation, I think, is critical, because we want to create generous, compassionate, confident, strong leaders that aren't just living for endless amounts of bottom line, but as they start their business, that they give back, that they invest in their people, that they care about the environment, that they care about the things that ultimately matter. So that value formation is critical, because that serves as the foundation for any success.
Yeah, so true.
How long have you been doing this?
Well, specifically with Generation Live for 5 years,
So
but I've been in youth development for
But you
20.
do have, just in the 5 years, you have some success stories
Yeah, we do.
of people that,
Yeah.
so does that information get out and get promoted too?
We do, yeah. We have a really vibrant social media that we share as many stories of quotes from kids as possible.
Yeah,
So-
you've got a great team.
Yeah, we share that. We push it out as much as possible. I mean, you have to, the people that are donating or supporting get most of that information and confirmation of like what you're investing in is working. Yeah. But,
And people can join social and track and.
oh yeah. Generational Live on Instagram or Facebook.
Something that you said towards the beginning about like, how do we teach these skills, or how do we get kids off their phones? And the thought I had at that point was caught, not taught, right? Like kids are,
100%.
they're watching us, they're observing us. And just now when you were sharing what you were sharing, I think that there's an interesting dynamic, and actually Leonidas talked about the power dynamic. But there's this interesting, like you go into a room where you don't know anybody, right? And you feel like everybody's kind of like hostile or whatever, but it's possible that they're just intimidated by you as much as you're intimidated by them. And I'd say the same dynamic happens with us, with kids.
Oh man.
Right? They are intimidated by us. They're like, oh, this big scary adult. Like, especially me, I've got a beard, it's like, oh, and so like they're longing for you to come over and be like, hey, what are you up to? And when they're doing something that's like, my kids do stuff, especially with each other. It's like, I'm like, oh my gosh. It's like, whoa, help me understand. Because from my perspective, you were just screaming at your brother. And I'm not really sure I even understand why. Tell me what, and you're gonna have to filter through kid translation, but they had a reason for behaving the way they did. And if you're curious, and then I think you were talking about like, when you say, hey, this is the expectation, this is what I need you to do, like with your kid, your son's friends, like they're like, yeah, like that's easy.
Well, it actually broke the barrier.
Yeah.
Where they now felt the freedom.
You almost gave them permission.
Yeah.
Right? Versus like, oh, I don't want to hurt Mr. Vancil's precious quiet time or whatever it is. So.
What I know we got just a couple minutes, but the best phrase I've heard of late, actually, or probably over the last 5 years, and what drives a lot of what we do, is that kids always gravitate to whomever takes them most seriously.
Excellent.
Always, I'll repeat that for those in the back.
Do it.
Kids always gravitate to whomever takes them most seriously. And so we want, it doesn't matter if you're 25, because I think there's this perception like you have to be, but the reality is kids are just desperately longing for someone to take them seriously, and if you have any capacity to do that, lean in to that very thing. So,
that's huge.
I love
JJ,
that.
thanks so much for sharing. Appreciate it. Mike, take us out.
Hey, I'm sure you guys learned something awesome today, and that's called value. And because of that, you should like this video. We talked about a lot of amazing things. Remember that feelings are mentionable and they are manageable. And we'll be back when the day is new, and we're gonna have some more ideas for you. I'm sure you guys are gonna have some things you're gonna want to talk about, and we will too. Till next time.
All right, thanks everybody.